I'm gonna show you guys how I made over $2,000 on Friday and how I'm a consistent trader nonstop by this one strategy. It's called the RicoCap Zones. Let's get into it. Guys, let's dive right into this. So we're going over Friday, which was the 17th, and we're gonna go over my two trades on IWM. IWM was the perfect example of the RicoCap Zones here and how they work. So let's get into it. As we're looking at IWM, I'm on the hourly time frame here. You can see, if you're new to watching me, if you're new to trying to understand what the RicoCap zones are, it's pretty simple. You see these red zones, sellers. See the green zone, buyers. And as you can see, kind of the last 2 days, exactly what happened. We pushed into this red zone, sellers stepped in. We finally trickled down Friday into this green zone, buyer stepped in. That's where we kind of got active, right at open. I'm the king of the open. And this is how we captured over 100% on some calls. Now, the first thing was super simple. At open, we saw a lot of selling, but IWM was one of the first names I was watching because it was inside this demand zone. And you can see right there that we not only opened up in it, we ended up pushing out of it. And so what gave me the confidence to go ahead and slam calls in this demand zone for this move out? Well, it's pretty simple. We gave it a second to see kind of what happened with SPY and QQ. Now, IWM is another index. It's for small caps. So it's usually going to be moving kind of in tandem with QQ and SPY. Now, these names did pull down at the kind of first opening, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then we saw buyers step in. We had a lot of support for SPY and Q at where the levels they're at. So I expected IWM to kind of hold and start pushing. We did have these kind of gaps from overnight that we created, just this space from yesterday's close versus today's open. So I expected us to kind of push back into that range. And so a lot of things on our side here. The demand holding, the gap fill above, and the fact that very cheap contracts for calls versus pretty juiced out puts because we've been seeing a lot of selling. So this was a perfect Lotto Friday setup. We saw that we pushed out of this demand, and anytime we'd open up in a demand like this and then kind of wick down and then pushed out like this, it's never a bad, I would say it's never a bad strategy to take calls for that move out, right? In whatever direction. So I knew we were gonna slam calls. I'm on the 15-minute here, and I didn't wait for the 15-minute or any type of body candle to open up outside of this zone, which I usually do. I didn't need to because I knew that if we're gonna get this gap fill right back up, it's gonna be pretty violent. Now, I ended up taking calls once we broke right back out above that 292 right here, 74, that top level right here, which is, as you can see, the top of that demand. I ended up taking those calls there. The reason why I ended up taking those calls, like I said, likely if buyers really start stepping in, it's going to be a faster move. And so I don't have too much room to work with because my target is that 295 supply zone right up here, right? Which is, where sellers are sitting, which is my know where to exit. It's very easy. I just understand where the buyers and sellers are at. And that's basically how I use it with, all these names, especially with SPY and QQ, RicoCap zones. So we ended up going the 294 calls. I alerted to the team. I ended up slamming those. The reason why I went that strike was because 295 was the supply zone above, so my target. I wanted to pick a strike that wasn't too expensive, that I knew was going to go in the money or at the money, and was going to move really well. So I ended up taking the 294s down here. They are about 88 bucks. They ended up running over 100% as we ended up running to 296 at the high there. Of course, sold, made money, boom, perfect. That was a good chunk of the first, $1,000 that I made right there. Now, absolutely, after selling those calls, and I'm telling it to the team in my trade alert channel, be all out up here. We're already over 100%. Be all out because I knew what was coming next. Likely, I'm going to be slamming puts up here. And why I decided to go with this name, even though I didn't have a thought about it, at the moment until I saw this. Once I saw this right here, this specific candle inside of this supply zone, that told me a reversal is coming. Because if you know this right here, this shooting star, could be a spinning top, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, right? And this is why it's very important to kind of understand, or at least have a basic understanding of, patterns, or at least candlesticks. So you can see that when you see a specific candle lined up inside of a zone, the next move that's going to be coming. So I ended up going some puts, and not just any puts. I ended up going the 295s. The reason why I went 295 was not only they were super cheap because they were, already juiced. They already, ended up getting squeezed out, right? Calls working at the time. This was the pretty much high of day up here. I ended up going 295 at the money. It's already about been an hour into open here, so the lottos are of course moving around and getting cheaper, and especially the ones that aren't working. So right now the puts aren't working at this moment because calls were already working. So these were pretty dirt cheap. I got them for like 80 bucks. Again, beautiful. You could have loaded up nicely. I waited for this to print. Once this printed, I ended up taking the puts right here. Now this was a high conviction setup, and if I was in chat, I was trying to scream it to chat, you can go heavy on a size like this. I don't care what strike, I don't care if it's a lotto or a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, whatever it is. You can go heavy on this setup because it's not risky at all. Likely we got almost every single sign there. Volume spiking at the top there, this reversal candle, and then this next candle opening up outside the zone. Remember what I said down here, that I will usually wait for a 15-minute body to open up outside that zone. Notice how it did exactly that on that next candle where I entered, pushed up for that wick for the rejection, got in on that wick right there, immediately started working, immediately started pulling down. And of course, just this move in this area right here, which was back down to my blue level, which is halfway point, 293-ish, 294-ish. Again, from 295, 296, 295 puts, went super in the money, right? Because we came down to 293, 294. And it was just one of those where it worked perfectly. Again, went over 100%. Beautiful move. And this was just a high conviction play, up and down. We caught it, up and down. It was very easy for me because I know exactly what I'm looking for here. And that candle kind of set it off for me as well, just understanding a little bit of that pattern. So, even right here, this was already 30-40% on our contracts just from the rejection and then the kind of dip out. You can still make a lot of money with lottos playing the zones and using this right here. So that's the cool thing about it. But of course, when you see something like this, you're going to get continuation, and we did. The next hour after that, or at least 45 minutes, we saw selling all the way back down. No fighting whatsoever. All red candles, beautiful, perfect. And if we look at it on the hour, it's even better. You can see that we did in fact catch a strong hourly all the way up, and then a hourly right back down. These two right here, again, 2 hour candles, right? 1 hour, 2 hours all together. You can make over $2,000 just like I did. Very easy if you know what you're doing. I didn't need to look at any other names. I could have, scalped and did whatever, but the market was kind of slow a little bit after that. Things were, kind of just in range and stuff. But again, really beautiful move. And this is just highlighting the zones, how you should be kind of looking at them, right? We can look at even the day before that, a strong move into this. And again, right when we got to the top, it almost wicked perfectly at the top of that zone. You could have slammed some puts for that move, kind of maybe out, or even, maybe a rejection all the way down. But again, this was just a really good move. The reason why I was so kind of locked in on IWM was because it's just respecting this range. And so when the zones are in this kind of range, you can make a lot of money. So I really wanted to highlight and make this video to kind of show you guys how I use the zones. And of course, one thing I'm going to be introducing as well is the RicoCap Zones as an indicator on TradingView. Now, you might get it. I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress, but it's coming very soon, as you can see on my screen. It's coming very soon to you guys to be able to use. So pretty exciting stuff there. So you can be able to understand, when, a sell zone, be able to reject, take puts, calls, things like that, and just be on the winning side of the trade of just understanding where you're at in the market. So awesome stuff here, guys. I wanted to go over that and how I made money on Friday, led the team to some bangers. If you want my trades, wap.com/RicoCapital, or go to RicoCap.com to learn more about RicoCapital and what we got going on over here. It's very special, and we're loving it. So hopefully you guys are having a great summer. Summer trading is kind of crazy this summer, but hopefully you're having a great summer. But this is just kind of giving a highlight of the RicoCap Zones. I'm going to keep making more videos on it. but I wanted to give you a quick recap on Friday and how we killed it there. We were 3 for 3 on the trades, just kind of did less. Also, we took SPY puts at open on Friday as a very first trade. The reason why I went with that was a zone play. We opened up outside the zone. We just dumped to the next zone. Literally this 15-minute candle right here. This 15-minute candle at open, just this one right here from zone to zone, again, made over, it was over like $60 a contract on the puts. We took puts right at open. As we pushed up, I shorted it and we pulled right back down. It was about like a $3 move on SPY on some lottos. You're making over 60% if you really time it right. You're getting 100% easily. I clocked 60. You know, that was good enough for me. I knew we had a lot of support down here, and as you can see, once we hit that demand, and I told the team, hey, we have a lot of support. We're gonna hit this demand. Be ready to be all out on those puts. Take your money and run. We hit that demand perfectly, and you can see buyers ended up getting activated there, and we ended up kind of just rocketing right out, you know, through our zones there and going into that kind of next target there. So pretty awesome stuff, to be honest. I love the zones, trust the zones, and I'll see you guys on the next video.